Well, back in the mid '60s, a group of men in this area, in Howard County and Cooper County, decided that there needed to be rural fire protection, and there wasn't at that time. And they established a fire department, the Boone Slick CB Club Rural Fire, and it was basically an incorporated, owned by the firefighters. The apparatus was mostly homemade, but it did a good job. It served the purpose, and I joined that fire department in the early '70s. We covered the rural area in southern Howard County and northern Cooper County, and we went to anybody that needed a protection. At that time, most of the fire departments were membership fire departments, and those people only responded to the members' fires. And there was a lot of people that didn't have fire protection then. So we responded to them and hopefully did a benefit to that area. But in the late '70s, we could see that our chicken barbecues and winter dances was not going to bring in enough money to continue to operate. So we began a process of looking at fire districts in both Howard and Cooper County, and both areas set up a committee, and we began having meetings with the counties and with the communities and trying to get a fire district started. The hope at that time was to have Blackwater, Pilot Grove, Bunston, Prairie Home, and the Boonville area included, but a lot of the fire departments were, they had the history, they didn't want to change. So at that time, Pilot Grove, Bunston, and Prairie Home all opted out. They wanted to continue with their fire department. But we had good response from the Blackwater area and the area around Boonville. And we finally ended up with a map that included Blackwater plus the city of Nelson. The city of Nelson came to us and asked if we would include them. So we had an area of Nelson, Blackwater, and the area around Boonville all the way to the Missouri River Bridge and Woolridge. So we worked at that and thought we had everything pretty much the way going. But then the Arrow Rock Fire Department brought suit against us to block us. They had members in the Blackwater area that they didn't want to lose. So we went to court over that and lost. So we, at that time, had to give up Blackwater and Nelson area. So that left us with 125 square miles of area that we could incorporate and get into a fire district. So we spent a lot of time working with that, getting the people behind us, and we took it to a vote and got it voted in 1980. And probably in my mind, maybe for me personally, the one thing that really got us going stronger on this, we responded to a fire 2 miles south of Otterville. Those people didn't pay membership, so the Otterville Fire Department would not respond to them. We responded at about 3 in the afternoon, all the way from our station in New Franklin to there. Of course, by the time we got there, the house was a loss, and there was the death of a woman and her very small child. And we could all see that something had to be done to get better protection in these areas. Bus Cordy was a great man. He was a supporter from the beginning. He worked with us, and then of course Harold Holler was involved in helping us get going, and Charlie Robertson. So when we got everything in place, ready to go to a vote, we had to have a separate ballot with the directors on it. So I called them, and I said, we want you to be a director, and they all agreed. So we got them on the ballot and went right through. Bill Simmons is chief. I was assistant chief. Danny Smith was our captain. Of course, when we separated the two departments, each county got one truck and one brush vehicle. So at that time, we had a '54 International pumper and an old military vehicle for a brush truck. And we didn't have a station. Howard County, the station that was in Howard County, they got it, but we didn't have a station, so we had no place to put our vehicles. And at that time, I worked with Avery International, which the building used to be out on 87 that became the sheltered workshop that burned. That was the International dealer. So I went to them and asked them, I mean, would you think about letting us store our trucks here until we could get a station built? And they were kind enough to do that. So we parked our vehicles in the shop. We worked on them there. We, in fact, repainted one there. The Boone Slick trucks were all white, and our department decided they didn't want a white truck, so we brought the old truck in and painted it red there in the shop. Bill Simmons and I went to Rogersville, Missouri to talk to a man about our first purchase. And we got there, and there was this truck. And of course, we weren't wild about the color, but he had built it for the University Fire and Rescue Training, and he painted it their colors. And he said they decided not to take it, so I can make you a little better deal on it. So we ended up purchasing that truck, and he delivered it up to us. But I do remember the night it was delivered, we had a little celebration. He was going to bring it up to us of an evening, and we had our wives, and some of them had children there, and some of the wives had brought snacks, and he backed in his tractor trailer and was getting ready to unload it, and the tones went off, and all the firefighters left and left the wives there to receive it. The directors went right to work finding this property, and we were able to get the property there at Windsor Village, and it was donated by the Windsor family. So we went right to work getting bids on a station, and of course that became a big topic. We thought we could build a station for X number of dollars, but then of course we began taking bids, and we found out, you're a tax-supported district. You have to pay prevailing wage, so that raised the price of the building. But they were able to do it. The National Bank of Booneville was a big supporter of us, and they worked with us in every way they could, and so we were able to get our station in. Well, we just knew that we had to do the best job possible, so we continued to get the support of the people, and that was the thing. We had good support. In some of the paperwork that I'm giving you to look at, you'll see a wonderful letter from the Bosley family. We fought a fire at their house one very cold, icy night, and was able to save the house. They were able to stay right in it, and those things helped us a lot to be able to do as good a job as we possibly could for the people.
Goodness, I would say it would be right here in this exact spot. I mean, this was the original Station 1, so I can remember the flood of memories. I remember a lot of the guys. I remember the station, I mean, to a T. I can still picture to this day. I spent a ton of time in that downstairs office area. I remember the building of the new office. Mostly I remember being in the bay, running around in the trucks while Dad was working, and I was grinding gears every day while he was out here working, and me and my cousin would come out, but I pretty much ran to every fire call with Dad. I remember closing my finger in a car door right outside the door, basically right probably where we're sitting. I still have that fingernail to remember that scar by. So Jack West was there when that happened. My finger was locked in the door, and so man, tons of memories. But I'd say my earliest memory would just be the station. I think I can remember pulling in the parking lot and where Dad parked every time, and right next to the door, basically right where you're parked right now, more or less, yeah. Grandpa was good friends with Kenny Grosjean and those guys that started the Boone Slick Rural CB Volunteer Fire Department, so they were all on there. And then when that split, kind of in the 78, 79 era, and the districts were formed, I think that's when Dad was approached by, actually Howard Lee Draffin was the one I think that approached him to be the potential fire chief. I don't think he was expecting it, but I think he felt like it was something he wanted to do, and just followed with suit and took on with it. So
okay,
that would be my guess, but I just, he grew up with it. I kind of like I did. It's kind of, well, when I was here, it was one station, and I can remember the building of Station 2 and Station 3. I can remember riding around on a lawnmower out at Station 2, and while they were burning it off, I think it was Russell Girling's lawnmower possibly, that I was it was an old snapper. I was just riding around in circles out there. They had to disconnect the seat switch so I could actually ride on the mower. But I think just the fire department as a whole, and it's always been something that Dad talked about when you guys were on, was you guys trained. You guys did the training. I mean, the slides are still in there from, you all doing the old projector screens. And I can remember pulling the trucks out of the bay to put the classroom up on the wall because you didn't have a classroom, like we've got now. But
So we used to do, and we still do, Fire Protection Week. We go to daycares. We go to a couple of the churches for the Sunday school for the kids. But with Bunston School now, we try and go down there every year and put on a program. We have gone down there we've had Boonville's fire, or their trailer down there in the past too. The kids really like to see something on fire. So so we try and do a lot of public awareness. We have had meetings where we just call the community or advertise the community that we're going to be around. We do medical coverage at the Steam Engine Show, the Cooper County Youth Fair. We do, if there's rodeos or mud marathons or tractor pulls, we usually have to have someone there to cover that. So whatever's, when someone needs something, a lot of these, like the tractor pulls, if it's a big enough one, they have to have coverage there, medical and fire coverage, or they can't sponsor it. So that's where we come in.
County Smith, Assistant Chief of the County Fire Protection District. We were dispatched at approximately 12:30 to a pickup on fire next to a fuel storage tank. While we were en route, we were advised that there were possibly 2 patients burned in the incident. Staff Life helicopter was dispatched to the scene and removed 1 or 2 of the patients, I'm not sure which. Fuel storage tank became involved, pickup was involved, several other vehicles. The building adjacent to the fuel storage tanks became involved, and we had a propane tank behind the building, which we were... Man, go ahead. You can return to quarters if you don't disperse. We have the propane tank behind the building that we were concerned was getting too hot. We were afraid it was going to explode. We were afraid that the fuel storage tank was going to rupture and spread fuel all over the area. We concentrated on the propane tank, the fuel storage tank, and allowed the building to continue to burn. We felt our highest priority was to keep the fuel tanks from igniting or from rupturing and causing further havoc. The structure was largely involved at the time we got here. We've had mutual aid from our County Fire Protection District in the form of 2 tankers and manpower. We've had mutual aid from Boonville Fire Department, 1 pumper and manpower. We've had mutual aid from Boone County in the form of 1 tanker and some manpower. We had a grass fire behind the building, and we had several other structures that were endangered. We had to send 1 of our units to protect a couple of the other structures. At this time, most of the fuel is burned out of this fuel storage tank. We're attempting to cool them down and smolder what is left of the fire inside the building.
Do you know the extent of the damage, injuries to the 2 ladies?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well, Danny, thank you very much. I appreciate talking with you.
You're welcome.
It's time for Second Alarm on American Heat. Yellow phosphorus ignites spontaneously with air and is highly toxic. Producer Nancy Higgins went to a train derailment in rural Cooper County, Missouri, where firefighters discussed all of the options before any moves were made.
From the beginning, firefighters from Cooper County, Missouri knew they would be at this train derailment for the long haul. 29 cars of a Union Pacific train derailed along the bluffs 1.5 miles south of the Missouri River. A lazy column of dense white smoke rose from the derailment. After 3 recon missions, Cooper and Boone County firefighters knew they were fighting yellow phosphorus. 4 cars contained the phosphorus and 2 of them were leaking. Cooper County firefighters called for the evacuation of the nearby farming community of Wooldridge and railroad officials and hazmat specialists decided to move in and try to knock down the growing fire.
Each time we looked away and looked back for any reason, it was bigger. And that was a consensus of everybody that went up there. We were all inspired by that, by the rapid growth of the fire. And as we approached, we felt that we saw the fire in the smoke column as much as 6 to 8 feet in the air. And speaking with some folks who had experience in this area, that was a significant phosphorus fire.
The half-mile stretch of field leading from the command post to the hot zone was soft, preventing any heavy apparatus from approaching. The extinguishing team was forced to use smaller vehicles with less water on board to attempt a knockdown.
This particular vehicle was used because it was a muddy wheat field, and our other brush unit has 250 gallons of water on it, and we realized that wasn't enough water to handle what we wanted. This was the only thing that was available. It's only got 450 gallons of water, but it was better than nothing. We laid the inch and a half on across the front, mudded ourselves in down there, and at the end of this, we started using quite a bit of water with our foam because it took us longer than we expected. And we started having to run brush trucks and as tankers to keep our water supply.
The Missouri River was close by land, but by road it was a 7-mile drive. Drafting and tanking operations were set up, but water access was limited at best. And knowing that yellow phosphorus ignites spontaneously with air, firefighters agreed the best tactic was to deprive the phosphorus of that air. Using foam was advantageous. After pre-entry medicals, the 5-member team extinguished the phosphorus fire with polar solvent AFFF foam in about 45 minutes. But the incident was anything but over. A half-mile away at the command post, a team of commanders moved point by point through their plan. They had to figure the best way to move the cars. Tank 1 had been punctured by a piece of rail, and tank number 2 had a tear. Overnight, all other cars were removed, and unified commanders began looking at their options. As day 2 began, incident commanders began calling fire departments from over 100 miles away to respond to this incident. It marked the first use of the Missouri statewide mutual aid system.
Botanics has called my office and said anything I want, I got.
All fire departments on scene and those arriving were familiar with the incident command system, but no one had used it to this extent with this many people.
And the incident location is in the Woolworth Bottoms, and it's totally a farming area. There's no houses in these bottoms whatsoever, and it went like from 0 population down there to 1,000 people in a matter of a couple hours. People coming in from the railroad, from environmental, from the cleanup crews, from fire service personnel. It was amazing, all the people coming in. You appoint strong sector officers, people who you know can take a sector and run that sector. The most important thing I could think of would be appointing a very strong, demanding staging officer. When people come in, they report to him. They go through EMS, they're checked out. He knows who's there, he knows who's not. And you want that person to be of the mindset that, that whatever happens, you're going to come through me first.
Over such an extended operation, regular briefings for firefighters had to be scheduled. There were still people arriving, but with so many arriving at all hours, not everyone was briefed regularly.
Might have been a good idea to put up a status board somewhere where all the troops could see it. There were troops around, firefighters around the command bus in the staging areas, but unless they talked to somebody, they didn't necessarily know what was going on. So if we'd had a 4x8 sheet of plywood with written down day 1 what we did, day 2 what we're doing, what our objectives are, and day 3 what the overall plan is, that would have kept everybody informed a lot better, and that would be one of the things that would make the next operation go smoother, is to be able to keep everybody informed.
The status didn't change into the 3rd day. The cars couldn't be moved until the puncture on Tank 1 and the rip in Tank 2 had been tightly secured. It was a long and slow process, but no one here was in a hurry. The yellow phosphorus ignited, but firefighters moved lines in quickly, dousing the fires. Firefighters remained on scene for a total of 8 days. All agreed that without the mobilization of the mutual aid, It would have taken much longer and could have been much worse.
Be prepared because it could happen to you. You know, occasionally we sit around watching American Heat tapes saying, oh, those poor souls on there. You know, those poor guys, you know, had to handle this scene. Well, here we are now. And it happened to us. It can happen to them.
62 fire and EMS agencies responded to this incident as part of the statewide mutual aid system. The system was created to handle the predicted earthquake of last December. There was no earthquake, but this incident proved to firefighters that the earth doesn't have to move for the mutual aid to. In Cooper County, Missouri, I'm Nancy Higgins for American Heat.
It was down in Bunston, and there was a facility down there that made, they were extracting ethanol or something. They were taking byproducts from an ethanol manufacturing facility, and they were extracting something else and selling that product back to the ethanol plants. It was ruled an electrical fire. It was on a Saturday, and we ended up having 14 fire departments respond. We had over 60 firefighters. We used, when I added up the totals, we used over 250,000 gallons of water. Most of it was hauled to the site from Tipton and Bunston, and I think Otterville even went back and got some water from their fill station. Columbia was here. They had a ladder truck here. We had departments from all over the place. I know we had helicopters from Kansas City. We actually watched some of it on our phones. We were watching the fire as we were fighting the fire from the Kansas City helicopter.
There was a fire coming from inside the plant itself, and it was already self-ventilated out of the top side of the building. So other than location, I know it was in the plant itself.
After several hours, crews were finally able to contain the blaze, but the fire was just too much for the Missouri Better Heating Plant.
It will be a total loss other than the office building in the front and the one elevator that could be contained, but the actual plant itself is going to be a total loss.
I met with Larry early at the time, and I was the hazmat guy, local hazmat guy here in town, and he asked me if I'd consider joining the fire department. I said, yeah, I'm 40 years old, and that's okay. So I came it was in January. It was a January afternoon, cold, rainy, and I went out to Station 3. They were doing the recruit class out there, and I'll go check it out and see what it is. And Mark Fredericks dug out an old pair of boots in the back of his pickup truck and dumped water out of them. They were old wore out boots. I still have those boots, by the way, and not wearing them, but I still have them. And that's how I got on. And I said, well, and we were shooting water, doing hose streams. I said, it's winter time. Should we be doing this? He goes, you think we're not going to have fires in the winter? And oh yeah. So that's how I got on. I mean, I had never met any of these people before. I'm not from the area. Never met them. By the time I left that class that day, we were just all best of buds. That's one of the reasons. I kind of felt like I'd found a purpose.